Garrick, Superintendent of the Amherst-Pelham and the Amherst-Pelham Regional Schools. Thanks for joining us for another segment of Voices from Our Schools. Today we have our topic, the partnership between UMASS School of Education and the Amherst Public Schools. And I have two wonderful guests with me. I have Dr. Joe Berger, who's the Associate Dean for Research and Engagement. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks, Maria.
And I have Dr. Rebecca Woodland, Associate Dean of Education Leadership.
Just a professor this time.
Oh.
But next time, maybe Dean.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maria.
Rebecca, you're funny. So thank you so much. I'm really glad to have you here. And Rebecca, your second visit, I think, on the show. So we'd like to talk a little bit about the partnership that we began last year and talk a little bit about where we are now and think forward into the future. But it might be great to start with a little bit around the School of Education, just so I thoroughly understand it, but also that the community understands how you're kind of organized and maybe what your role is there as well.
Okay, great.
I'll start with you, Joe?
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
So the School of Education at UMass Amherst, we've been around for over 100 years now in terms of preparing teachers, but the School of Ed itself was founded 55 years ago.
Okay.
And we have a mission to enhance education through the preparation of education professionals, through conducting research that enhances education policy, educational and school systems at a variety of levels, and policy development.
Okay.
And all of that work is informed by some core values, one being the commitment to social justice and diversity. And the other is the belief that international and national perspectives can really inform the development of local schools throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, including here in Amherst and Amherst-Pelham Regional Public Schools, in ways that will help us make schools here and around the state models not just for the nation but the whole world. And I think it's also worth noting that as faculty members, and we have approximately 60 faculty members in the school, that we all, and that we all engage, in a variety of roles. We wear our instructional hats where we're teaching future or current professionals, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But we're also conducting cutting-edge research, that's very applied to the real-world problems and challenges of education, because we are in an applied field after all. And that's an important part of the foundation of the partnership that we have with your school district. And then service and outreach, and being a public land-grant institution, that's a really important part of what we do. And again, that also informs the work that we do, both here with other districts around the state, around the country, and even around the world.
That's a lot.
Yep.
and everyone has a hand in, as a professor, research and as well as lecturing, or there's some people who really kind of specialize in one area versus another?
All of us as faculty members, have full roles in terms of teaching, research, and service. Now, each of us has our own interests and strengths and capacities, and so that may be balanced differently from person to person, because one of the things we want to do, is take best advantage of the talent we have. But it's also about more than what we each do as an individual. It's about how we work together so that, we can offer teams of folks who can enhance teaching and learning at a variety of levels and in a variety of educational settings.
Well, and I know that we've realized and have benefited from the various roles that you each as individuals hold, but also, a group of you working together with us has been really amazing.
It might be good just to, I know I get asked this a lot, and it took me a few years to figure it out, even in my own place of work, but so we are a school of education, but we have three main departments, so we are organized by departments, and I know it's sort of maybe mundane to talk about, but I think it's important to know that we have we have teacher education and curriculum studies. And so that's really most of our pre-service education programs for people aspiring to be teachers and specialists in the K-12 setting. And we have a variety of programs within teacher ed and curriculum studies. And then we also have the Department of Student Development, which has our school counseling and school psychology, special education, social justice, and other type advanced graduate programs. And then we also have Educational Policy, Research, and Administration, which is the department in which I'm in, which has research and evaluation methods and educational leadership program and Center for International Education and others. So anyway, it might be good to know that we have departments and we're sort of organized into our departments. And
that was really actually helpful to me when you explained that about 2 weeks ago, because it really, I went to UMASS and graduate program, but I didn't quite understand how the organization and the structure.
Yeah, right. And I think one of the things that the structure allows us to do, is we are a comprehensive school of education.
Clearly.
And I think a lot of people think of schools of ed as just
teacher prep.
Right, teacher prep. And that's a very important part of what we do. But it's only one part of what we do, because we're also preparing school psychologists, school counselors, school leaders and administrators at the K through 12 level, at the higher ed level. But then also scholars, folks who are going to conduct research and study the ways that we can improve education policy, education systems, and teaching and learning.
And then much of your work has been, or not, I don't know if much is a fair way to say it, but your work has been focused as well on the international work, which I find fascinating. Right.
Yeah, we have 5 research centers in the school. One of them is the Center for International Education, which has been, just a really amazing, amazingly productive and high impact group of individuals who've been working together for 44 years now. We've worked all over the world, and we focus, as part of our social justice mission, on places that we think we can make the biggest impact. So it's Malawi in East Africa, it's
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan recently, I just got back from Afghanistan. So places where, we can really, have as big of an impact as possible. But I think it's also important that no matter what the partnership and collaboration, whether we're working in Afghanistan or we're working in Boston or we're working in Amherst or Springfield, that it's an opportunity for us to apply our expertise, but do it in a collaborative way where we recognize that we're working with other experts, local experts, so that we can all benefit and we can all learn from each other.
Well, and I love the mutually beneficial partnership, which I think when we go into a partnership where it's very one-sided, it's not as rewarding for the people involved. So I appreciate that. That's kind of the way that you view developing partnerships in the international work that you're doing, but also we've come to realize that in your work that's happening in your own backyard, which is with our schools. So I don't know if Joe, if you have a new position this year. Do you want to fill us in a little bit about kind of what that means and how we will benefit?
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yes. No, I'll be glad to. Right, I just officially started as of September 1st, so it's very new, as the Associate Dean for Research and Engagement. We've never had that position before in the School of Education. We did some strategic planning two years ago that I was very involved with. And it became clear to us that one of the things that we needed to do was really enhance a couple different aspects of what we did in the School of Education and build on some strengths, but do it in a more intentional, more strategic, and more cohesive way. And that was one, to really improve and enhance our research agenda and our ability to engage in research. And I use the word engage very intentionally. You notice that I'm the Associate Dean for Research and Engagement. Because, as I said earlier, we're an applied field. So it's our job to take knowledge from a wide variety of disciplines, particularly in the social sciences, but from psychology, from sociology, from anthropology, even economics, and take those conceptual tools and apply them to real-world challenges in educational settings. So as we are a research university, and the School of Ed needs to be a leader in educational research. We wanted to make sure that we didn't do it in a way that was separate from.
Right. In a vacuum.
Right.
Separate from what we needed.
Right. Because
right.
The real world, in a sense, is our laboratory. And if we're really going to learn how best to improve education, whether it's on our own campus, in Amherst, all the other places that we've been talking about, then our research needs to be out in the field. Our faculty members need to be engaged with other educators in schools, in school districts, in ministries of education. And so my mission really is to be responsive to the real world needs. And so to help identify, what are good matches, what are good possibilities with the expertise we have in the School of Education? Who are good collaborative partners out there who also bring expertise and interests that will help us not only further our own mission, but will help us learn better about what it means to be an expert in our particular subfields of education, and provide vehicles for us to connect our faculty and our students with the world of education in real time. And so I'm just getting started with that, trying
July
to identify the
July or August?
Well, actually, September 1st was the official start. I kind of took a running start into it, but our work with Amherst is one of our first priorities as we've created this new office and this new initiative,
which we greatly appreciate.
Yeah, no, we're very excited about it.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And it is above the 3 departments. I guess it's important to kind of state this position. Your role is touches.
One of the things that's really important is that this office provide a single point of responsiveness to match up everything that's going on, and there's a lot going on across these 3 departments, and to figure out how we can best coordinate the talent we have inside of the school with the opportunities and the challenges and the talent that exists outside of the school. And so I need to be able to work, not only with Rebecca, she and I've been fortunate, we've been working together as colleagues in one of the departments, and now I get to sort of help broaden that with colleagues all over the School of Education. So it's very exciting for me. I feel very fortunate to be in this position.
Well, and from our perspective, from the public schools, our interactions with you and Rebecca have been extremely positive. Not only from the perspective of what you have to offer, the school district, because of course I'm going to think about what would benefit our children, our students. And then, of course, we'd love to be able to feel that we can be reciprocal and provide an opportunity for UMass to benefit. I found extremely helpful understanding, and I think some of our preliminary conversations, is that we have 2 separate cultures within the public school system. There's a specific culture of how we navigate and do our business, and higher ed, institutions of higher learning have their own culture. So it's been very helpful to me to be able to speak candidly with someone and say, help me to understand how we can make these connections. And I've felt that from both of you. You've helped, I think, substantially to be able to make those links become real.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one thing we're fortunate is Rebecca, one of her areas of expertise actually is a collaboration, and how do you do that successfully? And so she not only teaches about it and studies it, but she lives it.
Yes, she does.
And that's a great advantage for us. But you bring up the issue of culture, and I think that's really important to recognize. And again, we do collaborative partnerships literally all over the world.
Right.
And I think a lot of times that when people think about partnerships, when they don't understand that there's a difference between just having a functional partnership and really truly collaborating.
Right.
And really that means learning from each other, being committed to sustaining that partnership above and beyond any one set of objectives.
Exactly.
But that being said, we've tried to not only with this collaborative partnership as we're developing it, but with others, recognize part of it is you really have to have a shared sense of purpose,
right?
What is it that you're trying to accomplish?
Right.
Collaboration for collaboration's sake, we've talked about this.
Right, it's a vehicle.
Doesn't go anywhere.
Right, what is our mission or our vision?
Right, and that can even be counterproductive because then people view that as a waste of time because it probably is. But it's also cultural, as you mentioned, figuring out what are the different norms, beliefs within each organization, ways of doing things, and then finding some shared meaning and some shared language so that we can figure out how better to work together. And the other thing that I always think is very important, whether it's here in Amherst or somewhere else in the world, is that it's also it's relational. That organizations don't actually work together.
Right.
Bricks and mortar don't collaborate.
Right.
Human beings do.
Yes.
Yep.
Very, very true.
And so a big part of what we're trying to do is not just put the right ideas and the right projects together, but how do we get people working together well?
Right.
And that's where I think we have a great advantage right now.
Yes, we do.
We get to build on some existing relationships, but to do it in a much more mindful, intentional, and collaborative way than has historically happened in the past, I think, between the School of Ed and Amherst Regional Public Schools.
And I believe, of course I can't know all of the reasons why there have been bumps in the roads historically, but I do believe the cultural piece is significant, that when either someone from UMASS wants to contact the schools and work with us, or we want to work with the university, not really knowing how to access each other or like speak the same language, or what are the pathways to access, it almost feels like barriers are there and walls. So until you really understand how those systems work, which I felt very comfortable to ask those questions, and we've had lots of conversation around, well, how do we connect and make the partnership something that is powerful, meaningful, beneficial to both. So my guess is that in the past, there hasn't been that maybe a personal connection at times, which helps you to kind of navigate and understand, and then be persistent to make it really happen.
Well, I think it's interesting because your point, Joe, about setting up the structures for us to engage with one another, and really the first year of the partnership, at least between Amherst and the School of Ed, the first year of it was setting up systems and structures within district to have the separate cultures in the schools and within schools and across the district for leaders, administrators, teachers to work with one another. And that's sort of infiltrated on our side, which is the wonderful reciprocal part of it, to say, well, we also need the systems and structures to engage with one another, and then how do we bridge them together? So in the second year of this partnership, it's expanded. It's not just one department inside the school connecting with the school district, but now we have faculty from across the 3 departments and Joe, and so it's sort of on our side building those teams of people that share the same mission, and now how do we keep coming together regularly to make it meaningful? So that's been good work.
Yes, it has. It's been exceptional work.
Yeah, and again, I really want to emphasize Rebecca's point that this is the ability for us to work as a school in a coordinated way. We really believe and hope that that will meet the needs and be productive for Amherst, but it's also really helping us internally to be engaged in a partnership like this, because again, we've had individuals over the years who have contributed a lot to the school, but it's all been done in sort of an individual basis for the most part, and there's been some good initiatives here and there, but this, I think, gives us the opportunity to really forge something that is more enduring and that is more comprehensive.
Cohesive and sustainable.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, and to get sort of practical about it, why would we want to build something more sustainable and cohesive? Because there really is an overlap in the mission of the School of Education, of which, we have a multifaceted mission, as does the district, but, a major part of our mission is we care about professional development for educators, both pre-service and in service. And that's a major part of what we do and care about. Student learning, what happens for kids in K-12 settings all over the place, including in Amherst. And shared inquiry into what's working, how does it work, and the research component of it. So there are things in, you know, our mission and the district's mission that really overlap, and in fact, when we come together, we can do we enhance and build capacity.
We leverage our resources.
We leverage our resources,
because we have
right.
through lines throughout,
Right.
you know, all of our, you know, our collective work.
Right.
We have some commonalities that we really can,
Right.
you know, strengthen, and we can benefit each other.
Yeah.
You know, and in this day and age too, I think is education everywhere, you know, really struggles with resources. On the one hand, our challenges and expectations are higher than ever. And on the other hand, like a lot of other parts of not just our society, but around the world, I mean, resources are a real challenge. So
Yes, they are.
those folks who figure out how to work together better are going to benefit in
Yes, they are.
multiple ways. And I also think that that it's not just about, you know, often we talk of resources, you know, here's the money and the funding, and that's a challenge. But, you know, there are multiple types of resources, and so how we enhance each other's human resources and capacity, you know, will really be important. And also, we're thinking less and less in the education policy world about there's K-12 schooling here, and then there's post-secondary higher education over here. We really do need to think about lifelong learning.
Absolutely.
Right? And so how do schools and school districts work with colleges and universities? How do colleges and universities actively contribute to improving education? And then how do we think of each other as part of that learning system?
Right. It's the cycle
We're
of
not just
inquiry. We're
teaching
all
others.
involved in-
Right. And
Right.
that's what we're doing here, and that's what we need to be doing.
And that's unbelievably exciting for people who are involved in the work. I think it's also allowing us, because we have relationships, you know, we've built some common understandings, and we have a common language to be able to raise questions and even feel comfortable enough to kind of challenge each other a little bit times about how we're thinking about, which is healthy. It's at a very exciting time, I think, on both, you know, ends of the partnership, K-12, higher ed, to be engaged in a conversation that talks about how we each do our work and how we can think about things maybe a little differently.
Right.
It's a good conversation to push both ways, you know, about how we can work better together, you know, now, currently, in terms of school reform and school innovation, and how do we transform to meet the needs of all learners. It is all about how the adults in the building are working together. You know, how is a learning community created, which you've worked so hard on, you know, since you become superintendent and even before. And so for us to be working together to help those systems get set up, that requires, if all the adults in the building in a school system, if the school psychologists, the counselors, the administrators, the teachers need to be in those discipline cycles of inquiry together, that means those of us that prepare the leaders, school psychologists, counselors, and special educators, need to be getting together to get our language straight and, or, you know, in conversation with one another about, wow, if they're going into, if this is the vision for the system, we can't play in separate sandboxes either. So in this year, having Laura Valdivieso and Sarah Whitcomb from the two other departments
Who
are just wonderful people and talented experts, and so to have that cross expertise conversation is healthy for us and healthy for you.
And I have to say too, I really appreciate, you know, Rebecca, of course, on multiple levels of the work that you've been doing with us, but to have you and Joe really pull together. You know, we're working with Laura to support us around our work around with our ELL staff, English language learner, professionals who are working with our students, as well as to have Sarah Whitcomb working with us around a tiered instructional model around mental health and behavioral needs of children. To not have those be separate people coming in and working with our, into our schools, to be able to really connect the dots, to have Rebecca, Sarah, and Laura in the room together with our administrators at the same time. We are practicing what we're asking others to do, which is to really bring us together in collaboration and make the word work meaningful. It's not a separate add-on or a separate thing. It's how do we really work together to use our expertise.
Right. I mean, and fundamental to PBIS, which is what you're referring to in tiered instruction in the behavioral areas, and in supporting teachers of English language learners, you know, at the crux of those models, and the one that we've been working with, is collaboration. How do they work with one another to do this? And so that's been such a tie for all of us. And if we can all use the same framework and language, then it just builds everyone's capacity.
Right. And it doesn't feel like a separate.
Exactly, it's not separate.
The same language, I'm going to have to undo work that someone else is doing. So it's about bringing people in and making sure we're entering in a way that's going to be helpful, rather than, okay, technical expertise is helpful. However, it's not really connecting well with the other critical work we're doing. So it's been so far amazing, and I think it really has been, and I can just see where we're going in the future. I'd love to say also that the technical expertise of evaluating what we're doing, being able to look at the research and look at data and help us make sense of the current, the data that's ours, or what's happening in other school systems or in the nation, or what's best practice at this point, is a huge benefit to us who, being practitioners, at a school level or a district level, to be not having the time to sit and wade through a lot of research. So, building that into our partnership this year has been really helpful.
Yeah. And in the future too, I think, as we further enhance and develop this collaborative partnership, to also think about how we start generating knowledge out of what happens here in Amherst, and disseminating it, which is, part of our responsibility and skill sets, but that really then, I'll go back to part of the mission of the School of Ed, right, which is to really enhance education here in the Commonwealth, and particularly right here in our own backyard, in a way that it can serve as a model for other educational systems.
That's what I spoke with our directors and principals about today, and assistant principals. Our district instructional leadership team met today, and we said, now that our work is really becoming unbelievably powerful, our schools are doing exceptional work and taking large steps toward making a concrete difference in the lives, the educational lives of our children, the outcomes for our children. Now it's important for us to be able to step up professionally and share what we're doing so that we can make a difference for other districts. And Rebecca's helped us make some connections with other districts so that we can learn from them, and as well as them learn from us. But to really wrap that into the work that we're doing, so that the actual
and
research.
I think the generating the new knowledge, I think it's so important. Obviously, it's a major part of our mission, and it's what we're predisposed to want to do as faculty members. We sort of can't help it. We think we wake up in the night and go, oh, that's the title of an article. Oh, that would be a good research study. But to be systematic about that, and I would have to say that in Amherst, the administrators with whom I work, which is generally everyone there, at some point or another has said, oh, I'd really like to write about this, or this would be a good study. And in fact, last year, your district took on social network analysis, and working with several folks from the UMASS School of Education to do some analysis of how people are working with one another using social network analysis. And that data was collected, and it was written up, and it is being presented in a national conference and tentatively accepted in a journal. So that is part of the work.
Which is so exciting to us. And it raises the professionalism of all of
everyone.
us.
Yeah.
Well, right, and and again, I think in a higher educational policy environment where really everything's very outcomes oriented, data's driving so much, and I think that a lot of school districts and schools are really struggling with, given all the other responsibilities they have, really how to make best use of data to inform key decisions that will enhance student learning. And again, I think that that's one of the things that really embedding this culture of inquiry and partnering with folks whose responsibility it is, right, to apply their scholarly expertise to situations like this, really can be very beneficial to improving how a school and a school district functions. But it can also help us do a better job of preparing other teachers and administrators and counselors and school psychologists to take those lessons that they've learned right here in real schools and in our School of Education, and then disseminate that through their good work and have big ripple effects on educational practice at multiple levels.
It's a win-win relationship. And we are benefiting right now. I mean, for us to be shifting how we use data to inform our work, it's a challenge. It is a challenge. And I think it's many school systems, if not all school systems, have struggled to take information. It's, what is it, data-rich, information poor.
Yeah, we suffer from DRIP, data-rich, information poor. We have tons of data,
yes,
but we need to turn it into information.
So we have struggled, and we are beginning to, and have taken major steps in the direction, with the support from our partners, to be able to use data in a way that informs not only our administrative, our leadership decision-making, our goal setting for our district, goal setting for individual schools, and also informing instruction within the classroom. So we're beginning to really feel the benefit of really kind of shifting how we do our work. So the partnership work, not only helps our leadership team, it helps me in an amazing way to really be able to move our systems, our district forward, but it is making its way to classroom, to instruction, to benefiting students, which if this is happening up here and it's not getting to the classroom, it's not worth spending our time doing. So I just want to say that we are feeling the benefit, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's a sort of a culture shift. We rub off our cultures on each other, and actually it's part of, we have our 5 core values in the School of Education, and the first one is collaboration, and I think the third one is evidence-based practice, about, and the second is reflective practice. So it's about being evidence-based or evidence-informed about what we do, so it's how we are supposed to and want to do business. And I think that being more systematic about that and how to do it in a school setting and school environment is a great cultural shift for the school system.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And people are very excited about the work. It's not feeling as though it's a burden. It's feeling invigorating, intellectually challenging, and it's really driving people to do much, much stronger work. So we have just a minute to wrap up. It goes so quickly, but I want to give you the opportunity, if there's anything else you want to share about your work or where you hope to see our partnership moving, and then of course I'll rope you back into coming back to talk to me in a few months or at the end of the year anyway.
Sounds good.
I want to give you the time.
Right. Well, thanks, Mary. I mean, I think for all that's been accomplished with getting this collaborative partnership going, for a little over a year now, I think the really good news is it's just getting going, and there's a lot more we can do together. And the point that you were just making about that, it hasn't felt like onerous or more work for folks. And I think there is sort of this belief out there that the research theory practice divide is real, but in fact, if we're responsive, if the word I like to use, if we're really engaged, then what happens is we're doing it in a way that's authentic to the needs of the school, and particularly to the students and the teachers, all as learners in the school. Easier. That I just see this, building, because we still have a lot more to offer as a School of Ed, and we're looking forward to really. This is just the first step to really enhancing this collaborative partnership. The word we keep using, is in a sustainable way, so that years from now we'll be talking about, this is just routine, and we'll remember, when we were first having these discussions. But we'll have a lot more folks really involved in, again, authentic work that really improves the schools.
Well, I thank you both so much for coming today, and also thank you for your commitment and your persistence to make this a reality for us and for our kids.
Together.
Yes, together. So thank you both.
It's a real pleasure.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you very much, Maria.
Thanks.